got a late night edition of Pac-12 Happy Hour presented by Dr. Pepper. Okay, so let's get this thing officially started. Welcome to late night Pac-12 Happy Hour presented by Dr. Pepper. Yogi Roth, Ashley Adamson with you. It was worth the wait. It was worth the wait, Yogs. Let's not sugarcoat the fact that maybe this weekend from a conference perspective wasn't exactly what we wanted to happen, but if you're a Husky and if you're a Wildcat, you are feeling damn good this week. There's no doubt about it. So a lot to get into. We're going to talk about the games. We're going to get your takeaways, but I think we should start with CFP rankings since that's what everybody was waiting for.
Let's go. Go there. Hit it.
Okay, so the good news, Pac-12 has 6 teams in the top 25 for the first time since 2016. So let's just run through. 7 USC, behind 2 loss LSU, which we'll talk about in a minute. Number 10, Utah. Number 12, Oregon. 16, UCLA. Right behind them, 17, Washington. And then number 23, Oregon State. So your initial reactions. Go.
So this is the CFP, right? Not the SEC CFP? I'm just making sure.
I wasn't clear.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because I feel like there's a new tournament that I wasn't aware of after watching that, which is fine. Like, look, we get that's how it's going. I'm just kind of kidding. Ultimately, I think it's amazing that Oregon State's back in the rankings. I love how Washington has jumped. I respect where they put UW and UCLA because of how that outcome was, regardless of the type of win the UW had over Oregon and the common opponent. I think Oregon's sitting where they are. Utah, I love seeing them in the top 10. They could flip-flop and move up. The SC one is the one that we need to keep talking about. What I truly believe in my heart, and being a part of the group that presents to the College Football Playoff Committee, I believe that for USC to get into the playoff, they just have to do what is in front of them, which is beat a ranked UCLA, beat a ranked Notre Dame, and beat a ranked whomever else is in the title game, whether that's a game against Utah again, whether that's a game against Oregon, whomever it is. I think that resume is going to be strong enough, Ash, for them to get into the playoff. Like, I really do. And I get all the scenarios of, well, if LSU beats Georgia and if Tennessee is still sitting there, I'm very aware of that. But I still think when you look at 9 conference games and who they've played, how they've played, the playmakers they have, he referenced the offensive firepower, they're going to be just fine. So I'm not losing my mind just yet.
Yeah,
I think they're in a good position.
I totally agree with that. And I think at the end of the day, to your point, if they can actually get through these next 3 games, which is, let's just be honest, it's not going to be easy. And we can talk about the loss of Travis Dye and how that's going to impact the team. But if they can do that, they will be a 12-1 conference champion with 4 top 25 wins, and their only loss being a road loss to a top 25 team by a point at Utah. So that is a resume that I think will stand up pretty much to anyone. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But as we saw this weekend, things happen.
Yeah. And look, it's going to be amazing football. Like, I think the country clearly looked back at USC when Lincoln Riley got the job. Caleb Williams, he's having a Heisman caliber season. So all eyes will be on them, and rightfully so, right? I think they'll be back to full strength. Anticipate Eric Gentry playing, Jordan Addison being full strength, Mario Williams being in full strength. So I can't wait to watch it shake out. And I think what will happen now is the committee will start to comp teams, right? They'll say SC versus, let's just say, Tennessee. Who would win on a neutral site? They'll start to do that, but they have to go through the metrics, which, as we talked about last week, and I'm looking at my CFP little handbook here when I went down and did my mock selection. They go to the same criteria when it's tight, and conference championships matter. And to your point, ranked wins matter. Like, I love Pitt, but Pitt is not a quality win right now. I didn't think it was a quality win then. They were on their backup quarterback who was injured in terms of Tennessee. Like, I just think that we have to note that. They got rolled against Georgia. We have to note that. So I think SC, to the Trojan fans, I think you're in a good position. You're being presented in an incredible position to the committee. And we'll continue to do that and compete all the way up until the title game. The last time to present to the committee, Ash, is the Thursday of championship weekend. So if SC is in position and they can win the next 2, I think they'll be just fine, even though some think the CFP should just be the SEC round robin. I'm not one of them.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, as it always is, to see it play out, and a lot can happen between now and then. There's no question. I think you talk about USC getting back to full strength, but I don't think we can detract from the loss of Travis Dye. And to me, it's not just the numbers that he put up and all the rest, but seeing him get injured in that Colorado game on Friday night, the reaction from his teammates, the entire team coming out, it was just a little bit like took my breath away. Like it just goes to show he's been part of that program for what, 7, 8 months. And he's clearly made a huge impact. So they're going to miss him. And, so Austin Jones, Raleek Brown, Darwin Barlow, they have other guys who can step up. They're not dealing with what Stanford is dealing right now, which is having to play a safety at running back. But the reality is it's going to be hard. And they're going to get a UCLA team that is salty as all get out after what happened against Arizona. Shout out to Jed Fish, the fighting Jed Lassos, though. It was the signature win in every way. I think it was one that people kind of knew, had circled, of like that could get a little bit weird on Saturday night. And they jumped out to a big win, and it was a big lead, and were never able to fully recover. So shout out to Arizona.
Yeah, I agree with you. I saw a question there about LSU being ranked higher than USC. To me, you just got to look at, they're getting so much play for the win against Alabama. Like, to Ashley's point of the ranked wins that SC's going to have, that's why I think they're going to be fine. So I hear you with the frustration of tonight and where the positioning is, but go back to that. I think to your point, let's talk about UCLA for a second, right? They lose against a guy who kind of looked like Caleb Williams, right? And Jane Delore, in terms of his ability to escape, right? His Houdini type moments in the backfield. He's willed his team to win. I mean, that was, remind me, sorry to UCLA fans, but it reminded me of Jake Haener, like at Fresno State when they beat UCLA. We called that game a year ago. Like, he just wasn't going to be denied in that game. But we know that UCLA is talented. I mean, they are, 4 inches away from winning that game with our boy Jake Bobo, or whatever it would have been there at the end. Yeah, they would have won the game. So I think they're in a good position. A week ago, I would have said I think UCLA wins the game. Now I don't know, because they couldn't contain Delora, and Caleb, I think, is even more talented than Jane Delora in terms of his capabilities. He's a little thicker, he's a little stronger stature type of guy, and I think their playmakers probably pseudo equal. A lot of guys, a lot of weapons. I'm worried about that for the Bruins because we saw it play out. Also, we have to note for UCLA, third straight game they don't have their defensive coordinator, and I hope Bill McGovern is okay. Like, again, he coached me at Pitt back in the day. Huge fan of him. But I got to imagine, like, Clancy Pendergast, who we know is dramatically respected as a coordinator, just jumping into it, at the time that he jumped into it. Adds to the drama, though, this week. Clancy Pendergast used to work at USC as their defensive coordinator. So there are a lot of fun storylines with these two quarterbacks. First time 2 black quarterbacks will play in the USC-UCLA game, which I think is noteworthy. Unfortunately, as Chip Kelly said, like, why is it still a talking point?
Why is this the thing? Yeah.
But it's notable. And they know each other. Like, not only did they share a masseuse, reportedly, I saw that quote somewhere online, but they were both counselors at the Elite 11. In this world of social media, everybody knows each other. And I'll just say my last point, Ash, from coaching in the SC-UCLA game 4 times, first one, I was like, Notre Dame SC is bigger. And that was the Bush push game. It's not. Like, SC-UCLA is the jam. It is the game. I love that it's sounds like it's sold out. 16,000 plus fans. Like, add another 20,000.
Take those tarps off, baby.
Let's go. Yeah, so I'm excited. It'll be a great environment for both of those schools. It'll be a good one.
No, there's no doubt about it. And DTR, I like that he's pouring a little fuel on the fire, talking about wanting to hang 60 on him. And Jordan Addison responded to that this week. It's all good. It's exactly what a rivalry should be. I saw somebody, and by the way, if you're just joining us, welcome. It's a late night happy hour presented by Dr. Pepper. We're breaking down CFP rankings, talking all things Pac-12 football. So your comments, your questions, throw them in the chat. I did see somebody said your thoughts on Washington, and I will just start by saying I got to be in Eugene this weekend, and I was trying to remember the last time I was at a game that just had that much electricity in the stadium and that felt that big. And honestly, it was probably Nebraska, Colorado in 2019. That was, it's been a little while. You had the COVID year, and then last year we've been to some good games, but that was special. That was truly, I was standing next to Nick Aliotti and Nigel Burton looking around being like, we are so dang lucky to be able to do this. And the game was incredible. I think it was I can't remember who said it. It might have been Nigel. It was perfect. He said that was a game that both teams deserved to win and deserved to lose. Like there were moments in each part of on both sides of like, oh man, you had it. Oh, you were right there. You know, Dan Lanning certainly said all the right things afterwards, and you know, you can go back and look and dissect any of those decisions. But shout out to the Huskies for and the redemption. To me, that was the story of the weekend. Peyton Henry, 4 years ago, misses a chip shot that would have been the game-winning field goal to beat Oregon. Misses it, has lived with it for the last 4 years. You could tell because we talked to him on the set afterwards. If you haven't seen that interview, go look it up on the Pac-12 YouTube site. But it was for him to hit that, what ended up being the game-winning field goal, and for the defense to be able to get one final stop. You hope Bo Nix is okay and healthy and can come back full strength. They had some injuries along the offensive line, Alex Forsythe and Ryan Walk. But it was a special night. And boy, Kalen DeBoer, first time you're going to coach in that rivalry to get that win. Like, he's not going to be paying for coffee or drinks or meals in Seattle anytime soon, I don't think.
Bow down, right? That's how they say it up there. We're heading up there on Saturday. I can't wait to get there to meetings and be around the team and the program. They host Colorado for senior night. Michael Penix not a senior, but I think we'd all anticipate this being his last game at Husky Stadium. We got to give him his credit. Leading the nation in passing. I've done a bunch of shows where they're asking about the NFL, and a lot is C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, understandably so. And I say, hey, keep an eye on this guy. Right, last two games led his team to either win or tie the game on a late drive. He's made every throw imaginable. He's healthy, knock on wood, right? And if he gets a ton of help, who knows? Maybe he plays in Vegas. And if he does, we should be talking about him for a lot of legit postseason awards. Speaking of, there's 5 quarterbacks in this league up for the Davey O'Brien Award, top quarterback in America. So I'm just saying, we talked about it in week 1. Take top 6 quarterbacks in the Pac-12, put them up against any other league's top 6. I'd say it again. And if you disagree then, like, you can't, I don't think now, when you look at how these guys have performed. You referenced Delora, DTR, Caleb, Bo, and Michael Penix, and oh, by the way, Cam Rising. Like, he's going to have a huge stage on Saturday in Autzen on the road. I mean, that is not easy to go do. So I'm just really fired up for these teams, Ash. Bo Nix, I hope he's healthy because – granted, the national stage doesn't have what we thought it would be, like Super Saturday or whatever, but the Rose Bowl's still at stake. A CFP berth, like I know UCLA fans. I was coaching when they beat us with John David Booty, and they knocked the ball down, and we didn't go to the Natty that year. Still went to the Rose Bowl, but like
point being, all those memories are ingrained.
Yeah,
if you've been a part of that rivalry, you don't forget them. Yeah,
totally.
No, it's awesome. No, it's going to be. I mean, I think Michael Penix, and I'll just give a plug if you haven't listened to or watched your It Factory interview. Yogi Roth did a phenomenal sit down with Penix, and you know, college football doesn't have, like, at least that I know of, like a comeback player of the year like the NFL does. But if there was, when you think about what that young man has been through, 4 season-ending injuries, and he's honestly one of the easiest kids ever to cheer for. Since the moment that we've met him and the conversations we've had, he's just he's a baller, and he is also just like as kind and thoughtful, and his teammates love him. You can tell that Taj Washington, for him to come down, throw a pick, and then be able to forget that and turn around and that ball to Taj Davis, that was his only catch of the game.
He played 8 snaps in the whole game. Like I was looking at all the stats today preparing for the game, and I'm like, he played 8 snaps?
Yeah.
Like to rise up. You know, it was awesome. Like, we saw a lot of competitive excellence, and I think we'll see that again this weekend.
Yeah,
along the slate of games. Like, you got the 2 big ones.
Well, I was going to say, it's like it's like sort of the playoffs, right? It feels like a mini Pac-12 playoffs. You got the top 4 teams going against each other. What's your take on how Oregon kind of bounces back from that devastating loss to take on Utah?
Oh, they'll bounce back. I mean, the number one character trait under Dan Lanning, he calls it a DNA trait in his program, is connection. You go to the facility, go to the practice field, connection is the first word you read. You know, we went there in training camp, and he was like, I want to do X's and O's, but I need to go get to know my players. Like, he is so about connection. Even in the post-game presser, he gave a glimpse into it where he's like, I still love my guys. Like, just because we lost doesn't mean I love them even more. Like, we're connected. So I think they'll bounce back. The challenge is Utah's playing their best football, right? I think especially defensively. Alex Forsythe, I think he's the best center in the league and one of the top few in the country. Right, you're looking at this offensive line, which is one of three offensive lines nominated for the Joe Moore Award, which is given to the nation's best O-line. He's the anchor to that thing. So,
Yeah.
and Junior Tafuna is probably the best D tackle in the league for Utah. Like he's just a game wrecker, right? So, I key into it as the game goes on, right? Or as the week goes on. I think I think it's gonna be another epic game, and I think Oregon State will be an epic game. Like, dude, the Ducks have as challenging of a road as
Yeah.
anybody to get to Las Vegas,
Yeah.
if
No,
not
there's
more.
no
If
doubt
not
about
more,
it.
like if there's a bunch of two-loss teams, like we will come with a lot of heat in 2 weeks in advance of the title game.
Yeah. Yeah. And Oregon, Utah, that's a late night kick, 7:30 on ESPN. It's going to be, it was cold in Austin. I realize I've been living in California too long. I'm way too soft for the
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest air. But to your point, Dan Lanning, I think he said in his press conference, it was today, maybe yesterday, he said, we didn't let Georgia beat us twice. We're not going to let Washington beat us twice. So I'm sure they're going to be revved up and ready to go. Senior night, plenty of emotions, all of that. You know where else there's going to be a lot of emotions, and it's not probably the game nationally that everyone's going to be paying attention to, though it should, because it's the 40th anniversary of one of the most historic plays in the history of college football. But we are going to be in Berkeley for a game that is on the Pac-12 network, Cal and Stanford, the 125th anniversary of the big game. And these are two teams, like, let's be honest, they haven't had the seasons that either of them expected, that we expected, that fans want. Cal just let go of their offensive coordinator and their offensive line coach. So it's different than in the past. But the thing about rivalry games, which is so beautiful about rivalry games, is that it doesn't really matter. Like that cliche about throw the records are, it's true. They're expecting a sellout at Memorial Stadium for this game, and it should be. They're unveiling a statue of Kevin Moen, who obviously scored the touchdown on the play. They're doing that right before kickoff on Piedmont Ave. So if you're going, there's just going to be so much, pomp and circumstance and excitement. Former players, Shane Vereen's hosting a huge dinner apparently Friday night for all the guys who have played in the big game. So it's going to be, it's just, I'm excited for those players to be able to, because one of those teams is going to win and one of those teams is going to get the bad taste from a really rough season out of their mouths.
Yeah. I mean, you'll be there. It'll be electric on a bunch of levels. I feel like like in the broadcast on the Pac-12 networks, like every commercial when you come back will be like something nostalgic, I'd imagine, from the history of that game, just kind of all the bumps to and from different commercial breaks. But I'm curious to see what Cal is. We had their game over the weekend. I think they crossed the 54 times. Wasn't a good performance on offense. You go watch Stanford, Utah. It's 14-7 in the third quarter now. Like, they're not going to lay down. Neither one of these teams are. So now for Cal, how are they going to call the plays? What are you going to see? Like, Stanford, there's no tendencies anymore. Like, I get you can't install a new offense in 2 or 3 days, but I'd imagine there'll be new wrinkles because there's weapons, right? J. Michael Sturdivant. You can look at the wide receivers, Jeremiah Hunter. Like, Cal has them. Best receiving core Justin Wilcox has had. And he's got a quarterback that can pass. So if they can just kind of protect, which we'll see if it's easy. We'll see how aggressive Stanford is defensively. They've become more of an aggressive team in the second half. That's kind of the game. And then on the other side, Tanner McKee, like, can he deal? Can he deal? And is Cal healthy? Like, is Lamajia Hearns going to be back? Like, there's a lot of cool storylines for the game, right? The big game that I think will make it, to your point, one that will come down to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I just saw somebody say that they hope to meet us in person. Yes, I will be at the big game. So come say hello. We'll be set up on the sideline. Yogi's going to be in Seattle. So if you're there, go say hi to him. Our pregame coverage begins from Berkeley at 10 a.m. And that actually will lead into the 11 a.m. kickoff between Arizona and Washington State, which is, before we say goodnight and goodbye, one other game that we should just real quick mention.
Hello.
It's personal for Jayden de Laura. He has made that very clear. He's talked about it in his post-game press conference after they beat UCLA. He doubled down on some of those sentiments in his press conference this week. So Jayden de Laura, of course, left Washington State, transferred to Arizona. It'll be interesting to see how that comes to be, because Jake Dickert, look, like, their defense is fantastic. They've found something in the last couple of weeks. Nakia Watson being back has been huge. So I think that's going to be, you got a confident Arizona team. It's going to be a fun game.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I think in all the rivalry games or like the emotional games, right, whether it's Utah, Oregon, not necessarily a traditional rivalry, but has been a great game, or Wazoo and Arizona, to me, it's really going to be on the discipline of the players, right? Because this is a game where like you can get chippy, and it's gonna be.
Yeah.
But I've called a lot of those games, and like the team that is like starting a fight at midfield and pregame usually gets thumped,
Hmm.
or the player that gives a late cheap shot, it usually costs the game. Like those are things for these games that I'd really hone in on. And I think these teams, while the coaching staffs are young, like they're suitably player led. Now they're young players or they're new players, right? Whether it's Arizona, right? Jacob Mon is the leader of that defense now, right? Well, he and Hunter Echols need to keep that thing tight, right? And then on the flip side, it's veteran RJ Stone, Brennan Jackson. These are two guys that they play forever, right? So I think they'll handle the emotion well. I hope we have a clean game, and it is going to be a blast to watch because I think you'll get everybody's best.
Yeah.
Cam Ward, he'll play his best. Jane Delore will leave it on the grass. It's gonna be, I don't know if it's a sellout yet, but I know that it's close. So it'll be an amazing 11 a.m. Pacific time kickoff to your college football Saturday.
It's going to be awesome. Okay, we have gone on too long, but I do want to close, and you don't need to go on too long, but I just want your clean answer before
Yeah.
we say bye. The team in the Pac-12 that you most believe in right as of today, right now, November 15th, who is it?
That's a hard question. That's a hard question for me. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say USC. And I haven't said that all year. I was
Mm-hmm.
gonna say UW. I wanted to say Oregon State, but there's a lot of injuries. We'll see how that they manifest and manage that. I wanted to say Oregon, but we don't know their health. Wanted to say Utah, but Cam Rising wasn't as sharp or efficient as he was when he played USC 28 days ago or whatever it is now. So I'm gonna go with SC because I believe in Caleb Williams. Like Caleb is a gamer, gamer. Jordan Addison, I met him when he showed up. I said, "Hey man, like, tell me about your decision to leave Pitt to come to SC." He goes, "Business, man." Blank. And he when he's healthy, he's the best receiver in America. Raleek Brown, he got a chance to show up. Tui Pelotu, I'd vote for him for Defensive Player of the Year right now.
Yeah. He's
Eric
wonderful.
Gentry, most impactful player on defense in the league. Now, I could say the same thing about Darius Muasau. I could say the same thing about Zach Charbonnet. I trust him probably more than any player in the league. But yeah, I'd have to say them. Now, I don't know if they're going to win. I don't know if they're going to win out. It's going to be fun though, because those guys at SC went there for these bright lights, and this is the first time that they're really shining in LA on them. Utah was a different deal, right? Like this is Hollywood. This is a big deal. I think they'll meet the moment, and I know UCLA will. I
Yeah.
know they will. So that's why it will just be. I think that's at 5. Our game kicks at 6. Like we will have a side screen up in the
We're
booth,
keeping an eye on it.
peeking. Yeah, just
The
a little
text thread will be
twinkle.
going. The
Yeah.
text thread will
So
be going.
how
I'm
about
just
you?
really glad that we've got some heavyweight battles and that our teams aren't playing the UAB Blazers and
Yeah, there it
Austin
is.
P and whatever other
Mm,
directional school you can think of. So
yeah, it
we can leave
matters.
it on that note. And by the way, I see some Utah fans saying no love for Utah. We got all the
Oh
love
yeah.
for Utah, like in spades. Go back and listen to this thing. It'll be on YouTube, on Instagram. We appreciate you guys joining us. Late night is actually kind of nice. We got some more people watching tonight because maybe people
Well,
are on social media more. My
maybe I'll
kids
give
are
you.
going
Yeah.
nuts.
Oh, I have one right here for like the majority of the show, just tugging on an arm. So let's focus.
Yeah, it's good. You nailed it. All right.
Yeah.
Bye,
All right.
everybody. Take
See
care.
ya.
See ya.